Hey, Port Temecula listeners. Rick DeLucio here with another sneak peek of our new podcast, The Short Pour. This time we're diving into the history, the culture, and the cuisine of something close to home, West Coast IPAs. We hope you enjoy this episode. Please feel free to reach out to either Shannon or myself with your comments or suggestions. This is The Short Pour, your 15-minute quick hit of wine, beer, spirits, and the stories that bring them to life. We're your hosts, Rick DeLucio and Shannon Cole, wine educators, sommeliers, and drink lovers based in sunny Southern California. Today we're staying home and cracking into a style that helped build the modern craft beer movement, the West Coast IPA. Think bold bitterness, bright citrus, piney aromatics, and a bone-dry finish. And to showcase the style, we're pouring one of the originals that's a stone's throw from our hometown, Stone IPA from San Diego, a beer that didn't just ride the West Coast wave, it defined it. To understand the West Coast IPA, you've got to rewind to the early days of the craft beer revolution in the 1980s and 90s. At the time, U.S. beer was dominated by bland, mass-marketed lagers. But a group of small independent brewers, mainly on the West Coast, decided to change that. They weren't interested in subtle. They wanted flavor. They wanted hops. Inspired by the English pale ales, but armed with bold American hop varieties like Cascade, Chinook, and Centennial, these brewers started cranking out beers that smelled like grapefruit rinds, pine trees, wildflowers, and weed. Anchor Liberty Ale, released in 1975, is often cited as one of the first to use Cascade hops post-Prohibition. But Sierra Nevada Pale Ale in 1980, and then beers like Lagunitas IPA and Stone IPA in the mid to late 1990s turned this into a movement. That led to what some call the IBU arms race, where breweries were competing to create beers with absurd levels of international bitterness units called IBUs. We're talking 80, 90, and even 100 plus IBU monsters with names like Ruination, Palate Wrecker, and Hop Stupid. Bitterness became a badge of honor. You weren't a true hophead unless you could handle a beer that felt like it was sandpapering your tongue. Through it all, the West Coast IPA evolved. Crystal clear in the glass, golden to deep amber in the color, with a bone-dry finish, and that unmistakable pine resin meets citrus bite. It wasn't just a style, it was an attitude. And at the epicenter, San Diego, California. The West Coast IPA didn't just introduce drinkers to new taste, it reprogrammed their palates. Before the style exploded, bitterness was something beer drinkers avoided. Afterward, it was something they sought out. Breweries had to start putting hop varieties right on the label. Drinkers learned to talk about alpha acids and dry hopping techniques like us wine lovers talk about oak aging and vineyard elevation. It also reshaped how we think about freshness. For many styles of beer, aging brings nuance, but not here. West Coast IPAs are meant to be consumed fresh, crazy fresh. Drinkers became obsessed with canning dates. Brewed on became more important than ABV. That's part of the fun. These beers are alive with volatile hop compounds that lose their punch fast. So you're chasing a flavor that's only at its peak for a brief window. Blink and you're going to miss it. Beyond just taste, the style helped build entire craft beer economies. Breweries like Stone, Green Flash, Ballast Point, and Russia River Brewing didn't just grow, they became destinations. They put cities like San Diego, Santa Rosa, and Chico on the beer tourism map. You could argue that without West Coast IPAs, there wouldn't be beer festivals, tap rooms packed with flight paddles, or whole sections of grocery stores devoted to indie craft beer. And culturally, West Coast IPAs tapped into a California vibe, bold, expressive, independent, and confrontational. These weren't beers trying to please everyone. They were beers that stood up and shouted, "This is who I am, deal with it." Enter Stone IPA, one of the earliest and boldest expressions of the West Coast style. Founded in 1996 in San Diego County, Stone Brewing quickly became a pioneer of the craft beer movement with its bold, unapologetically hoppy beers, especially its flagship Stone IPA, which helped define the West Coast IPA style. Known for its aggressive, beloved gargoyle branding, firm stance on freshness, and a commitment to pushing flavor boundaries, Stone earned a reputation as one of the most influential craft brewers in the United States. And that gargoyle, to quote Stone Brewing's own description, "Gargoyles are historically known as protectors against evil spirits. Since the beginning, our Stone gargoyle has represented our ceaseless quest to create the most awesome beers imaginable. Think of the gargoyle as a big friend that's got your back, ever vigilant, ever watchful, and ever your humble servant. The Stone gargoyle watches over us and our fans, protecting us from cheap ingredients, chemical additives, and general mediocrity. The modern-day evil spirits of beer." All right, so let's take a look at this beer. So in the glass, this San Diego staple pours a gold amber with a dense white head. On the nose, it's a hop lover's dream. It's got grapefruit zest and pine needles and citrus rind and just a hint of floral spice and pungent dank. All right, let's take a sip. All right. And sure enough, that palate delivers what the aroma promises. Big bitterness up front, a rush of pine resinous citrus, and just enough of that kind of like sweet caramel malt to keep it standing. The finish is very dry and very crisp with a lingering kind of herbal citrus bite. I think like lemongrass would be maybe a good comparison. Okay. So this is not a sweet or subtle IPA. It's clean, aggressive, and pretty much exactly what you want from a West Coast original. So if you're new to the style, this is Stone's IPA is a great introduction. If you're a longtime fan, it's pretty much a classic. I'm not a big hop head, but this is exactly as billed. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a pretty damn reliable option with the perfect hops and malt balance ratio. You should be able to pick this up and find this anywhere maybe in the $10 to $15 price range for a 6-pack. So not all IPAs are created equal, and menus don't always make it easy. But spotting a true West Coast IPA is about reading between the lines. Look for keywords like clear, crisp, piney, or dank. You're likely on target if the description leans into citrus peels, dank herbs, or a dry finish. So bonus tip, if it probably lists classic hops like Cascade, Chinook, Centennial, or Simcoe, bingo! If it's hazy, creamy, or mentions juice, that is an entirely different coast. When it comes to food, West Coast IPAs excel alongside classic pub favorites that are bold, rich, and spicy. Their strong bitterness and crisp finish make them perfect for cutting through these type of dishes. Consider pairing them with golden, beer-battered fish and chips served with tangy tartar sauce, juicy cheeseburgers, or hot, crispy fried chicken with a touch of heat. One of Shannon's favorite pairings is a plate of traditional enchiladas, either red or green, accompanied by creamy guacamole and salty, crunchy tortilla chips. The hops in the IPA slice through the fat and richness of the food, while the carbonation acts as a palate cleanser after each bite. For something even more unconventional, try matching that resinous hot bitterness with spicier dishes. Think of spicy Thai curries or buffalo sauced wings that are perfect for game day. These dishes call for a beer that can hold its own. The subtle caramel malt of a West Coast IPA helps to balance the spice, while its bright citrusy hops provide a refreshing contrast, bringing it all into balance. But honestly, nothing quite embodies the West Coast like sipping a piney, citrus-backed IPA while watching the sunset. West Coast IPAs are not just a style, they embody a legacy. They symbolize a pivotal moment in American craft beer, characterized by loud flavors, bitterness, and a willingness to push boundaries. Whether you're sipping a fresh release from your local brewery or reaching for a classic like Stone, Lagunitas, or Ballast Point Sculpin, West Coast IPAs still offer what they always have: clarity, confidence, and a serious punch of hops. If it smells like a citrus grove collided with a pine forest and finishes dry enough to make you want another sip, congrats, you found a West Coast IPA. Thanks for joining us on The Short Pour. Drink what you love, chase flavor boldly, and if the beer's bitter, good, it's supposed to be. Until next time, cheers.